So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This session today is about the Proposition 16. And we have Selvaraj, who is part of the executive committee of Ambedkar King Study Circle, uh, to talk to us about the campaign for Proposition 16 as it was conducted in California, and how did it go, what was involved in the campaign, what were some of the reasons it was successful or not successful. Eventually, the proposition did not pass, and sort of what could be the learnings. So Selvaraj has worked actively with the campaign, so he's going to share his presentation. So over to you, Selva.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I'm Selva from Ambedkar King Study Circle. So how I am going to do that is I have prepared the speech. So you can, if you have any question, if you feel like it's boring, you can interrupt me, or you can suggest, how it's a better or any other way. So first I will present, then we can have a kind of open discussion, question and answer. Okay. So first I will give the introduction of affirmative action and how that came about, and I will give a proposition 209 and 16, how it defeated, and what people think about how the future course of action that we can do. So affirmative action is an active effort to improve employment and educational opportunities for members of minority group and women. Affirmative action began as a government remedy to the effects of a long-standing discrimination against such groups, and has consisted of policies, procedures, and that give limited preference to minorities and women in job hiring and admission, to Institute of Higher Education, the awarding of government contracts and other social benefits. So the affirmative action is monitored by the Office of Federal Contract Compliance and Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And this affirmative action later was broadened to cover women, Native Americans, Hispanics, and other minorities, and was extended to college and universities and state and federal agencies as well. So little bit history about this term. The affirmative action, the term was introduced to the Kennedy administration almost 60 years ago. And its arrival was somewhat haphazard. According to Nicholas Lemons, The Secret History of Meritocracy, in his book, The Big Test, the man who suggested it was an African-American lawyer named Hobart Taylor Jr. He was a Texan, and when John F. Kennedy was born in 1961, he dropped in on the inaugural ball for Texan in order to shake hands with the new Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson. They chatted for a while, and Johnson asked him to come by his office. When Taylor showed up, Johnson handed him a draft of what would become Executive Order 10925, setting up the President's Committee on Equal Employment Opportunity, which Johnson was to chair. Taylor read the draft and said he thought it could use a little work. Then Johnson asked him to do a rewrite. And that's when Taylor inserted the word affirmative action. Taylor needed a flexible phrase because Kennedy's committee was a bureaucratic entity with a vague mandate meant to signal the administration's commitment to fairness in employment. Affirmative action intended to communicate firms that needed to integrate their workforce. Don't just stand there, do something is one of the meaning of affirmative action even today. Many firms and educational institutions have affirmative action or diversity officers. The job is to ensure not only that hiring and promotions are handled in a colorblind, but that good faith efforts are made to include racial minorities in their hiring pool, and if they are qualified, to attempt to recruit them. In this context, affirmative means demonstrate that you did your best to find and promote members of underrepresented groups. You do not have to give them preferential treatment. So this is the history about the affirmative action, how it came about. And people who like how the people react to this affirmative action. Of the people who like racial diversity but don't like affirmative action in the preferential sense, there are two types. There are two type of people. So one type believes that we can ban all type of preferential treatment, and so long as we enforce existing laws against discrimination, still achieve equality of results. These people see affirmative action as unfairly penalizing those who are not biased themselves and who have not enjoyed no personal benefit from discrimination. And they see it as stigmatizing members of underrepresented group with the suspicion that they are underqualified for the jobs they hold or the schools they attend. So this is the one set of people, what kind of view they hold on the affirmative action. The second type of people is a skeptic is the person who knows that this is a wishful thinking, but is unable to get his or her head around the idea that the way to end discrimination is by discriminating. The law professor Melvin Urofsky, in his book, The Affirmative Action Puzzle, says he's agnostic on the issue, but he would seem to be a person of second type. He wants racial diversity. Again, he also wants racial diversity, and he knows that it is not going to come about on its own very soon, but he thinks specific goals or targets, they call specific goals or target also for this affirmative action, are the odds with the rights of individuals. So that's why he call the affirmative action is a puzzle. So there is a whole library on racial and efforts to address it, and the affirmative action puzzle does not offer many novelties in his book. But the book, just by accumulation of 60 years worth of evidence, allows us to reach some useful conclusions. Even though he's agnostic on the issue, and the presentation and the evidence he has presented in his book, it is a very, we can draw the useful conclusion. And the most important of this is that affirmative action worked. So in his book, how he talks about is in 1981, for example, as Urofsky tells us, the Reagan Labor Department commissioned a report on gains in hiring among African Americans and women. It found that between 1974 and 80, the rate of minority employment in business that contracted with the federal government rose by 20%. And the rate of employment of women rose by 15.2%. In the companies that did not contract with the government, the rates were 12% and 2.2% respectively. So that is the commission report. If they want to contract with the government, they have to implement affirmative action. So that is the result. So this was very much contrary to everything that Reagan had been saying about affirmative action, that the Labor Department hired an outside consulting firm to vet its own report. When the firm returned with the news that the methods and the conclusion were valid, the administration did the only thing it could do. It refused to release the report, because Reagan was talking all along against the affirmative action. So they didn't release the report, thus allowing politicians to go on telling the public that affirmative action did not work, but it did, and so did the war on poverty. It's not only it worked, but it did war on the poverty. So based on that book, he says. So the other side of the affirmative action is the whites, the victims of the affirmative action. So in that book, he talks about that, and he gives an analogy about a handicapped parking space. A driver looking to park who does not have permit might feel excluded driving past an empty handicapped spot, but he or she usually finds a place to park. Yeah. So they may not find the school where some of the students are very mini school number of white students may not find space in the college they applied, but they get somewhere else. So it is, so according to his conclusion, that it is not a zero-sum game. The marketplace matter, the biggest defenders of affirmative action are not the NAACP or the Democratic National Committee. So again, the marketplace also matters. Who supports the affirmative action? Like all the biggest companies, they want to implement affirmative action, like a car company, when they sell cars to their customers, their black customers or Hispanic or people of color, they don't want to keep all the white people in the sales department. So it benefits them, it attracts more customers. So the marketplace also matters. One of the biggest supporter are companies and military. In the military, if they want to have a diversified population, they want to have the affirmative action. So they support through the college admission and job hiring and all those things. And William Baum and Derek Bach showed in The Shape of the River. So this is another book that talks about the affirmative action. The most rigorous statistical analysis of race conscious college admission to that point, that of 700 Black students who entered 28 selective schools under race preferential criteria in 1976. 32% attained doctorate or professional degrees as compared with 37% of white students. That's a big number. So nearly 125 of Black students were business executives and more than 300 were civic leaders. Race-conscious admission policies, Baum and Bach concluded, have been highly successful in advancing educational and social goals. So now we talk about we'll move on to Proposition 16. So first, before that, we would like to get the demography of California. According to the most recent American community survey, the racial composition of California was white 60%, Asian 14%, other race 13%, Black or African American 5.79%, two or more races 4.81%, Native American 0.76%, Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander 0.39%. So this is the racial composition of California. So the Proposition 16, before we talk about Proposition 16, we need to talk about Proposition 209. So how it came about. In 1990, some white student who expected admission in University of California campuses experienced shock when they encountered intensifying competition in selective higher education landscape and rejected. So treating the rejection as the reverse discrimination and the preferential treatment of Black and Latinos was easier than confronting their own feeling of entitlement to elite universities. So these feelings ushered in the victory of Proposition 209 in 1996, which success at similar voting margin to Proposition 16's failure in 2020. Proposition 209 stated that discrimination and preferential treatment were prohibited in public employment, public education, and public contracting on account of persons' group, race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin. Therefore, Proposition 209 banned the use of affirmative action involving race-based or sex-based preferences in California. So this started when there was a case happened in US Davis. So we a little bit see about that. The US Supreme Court case that admission office rely on today's regents of the University of California versus Paki. So that was it is the Supreme Court used this case. This is the first case I think they came that unsaid the affirmative action. It led to ban on the affirmative action. It was decided in 1978, and despite several attempts to litigate, it is still a law of the land. Baki is a good example of the jurisprudential confusion around affirmative action. The court managed to produce 6 opinions in that case. So if you look at all the cases and the rules, the rulings of the Supreme Court, they don't give the uniform addition. It gives 4 to 6 rulings, and the majority takes place. The majority takes the precedent. So struck down an admission. So the plurality opinion, Lewis Powell struck down an admission program at the University of California at Davis School of Medicine, from which Alan Bakke, a white man, had been twice rejected, but it upheld the right of school to use race-conscious admission program. So this is when Alan Bakke, he was rejected twice, and at the end he got admission. So this is when the Proposition 209 started. So it was started by Ward Connolly. He's a political opponent of the affirmative action. So they say he's the father of the 209 proposition. He's the one who led the proposition, and with the 209, California became the first state to ban the affirmative action, and 8 other states followed after that. So now the 220, so how the 16 came into place. So in 2020, Assembly member Shirley Weber, she's from San Diego, District 79 member, Assembly member, introduced the legislation that would become Proposition 16, stating that the pandemic as well as the recent tragedies of the police violence is forcing California to acknowledge the deep-seated inequality and far-reaching institutional failures that show that your race and gender still matters. She also said this is probably an opportune time given the people's interest in politics and given the kind of turnout that is anticipated. And given the fact that this is a different generation, that it may be possible for us to begin to work to reverse Proposition 209. So the Proposition 16 was a constitutional amendment that would have repealed Proposition 209 passed in 1996 from California Constitution. So the ballot title of the Proposition 16 was Allow Diversity as a Factor in Public Employment, Education, and Contracting Decision, Legislative Constitutional Amendment. The summary of the ballot is permit government decision-making policies to consider race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin to address diversity, to repealing Article 1, Section 31 of the California Constitution, which was added by Proposition 209 in 1996. So let's see what exactly happened and what was the opinion of opponents, how it was conducted. So actually we had a very favorable condition for a Proposition 16. So the advocates of the proponents had 24 years of evidence since 1996 that evidence of plummeting Black and Latino enrollment in the UC systems to support the claim of social inequality in society. Back in 1996, the Democratic Party did not campaign against Proposition 209, fearing the loss of middle-aged white voters. However, today Democratic Party supported affirmative action and political stars such as Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders endorsed Proposition 16. And many people like mayors, city council members, state senators and assembly members, US senators and US representatives, so many people endorsed this proposition. And in 209, while opponents of 209 did not have coherent strategy to protest affirmative action, Proposition 16 commanded support from broad coalition. So we had a very good coalition. Bernice King, daughter of Dr. M.L. King, respected labor activist Dola Sutra, Kaiser Permanente, the Golden State Warriors, the Los Angeles Times and other newspapers, and the co-founder of Black Lives Matter, Patty Sploors and Alicia Garza. The coalition also raised a significant amount of donation than the group that opposed to Proposition 16. So how it failed, I can give the Proposition 16, what is the percentage? The Prop 16, the yes vote is 7.2 million and no was 9.6 million. The percentage is 42.77 to 57.23. So this is actually the more margin than the Proposition 209 in 1996. It's supposed to be a, even if it didn't win, at least it should have more than Proposition 209 because it's a bluest state in the US and the more progressive people. We claim that it's a more progressive people, it's a more democratic and liberals. And Proposition 29 in 1996 was 54% yes and 45%. So on the same time, Joe Biden got 63.5% and Donald Trump got 34.3%. If the liberal and Democrats, if they have supported, they should have, this also should have received 63.5%. Even if it is not 63, at least it should have won, but it didn't do. So Ward Connolly, the anti-affirmative action leader, so what he talks about is that why he opposes, he talks about the racism. He says that racism is no longer a moral issue, and the killing of George Floyd was not about race. The killing of Floyd was the result of badly applied police tactics and not a symbol of systemic racism in America. And on the same time, he praises Donald Trump. So he's the one who leads all the affirmative leads ban on affirmative actions all around the states, and he's the lead for other 8 states also. And how people respond in general public is that 71% of the poll respondents told the Pew Research Center that affirmative action program designed to increase the number of Black and minority students on college campuses are good things. So 71% says good thing. But when they asked Gallup and the Inside Higher Ed, that analytics team, they asked, okay, what factor we should use to increase the participation of the minority students and implement the affirmative actions. So they say only 38% are comfortable to say that, okay, the ethnicity or race can be considered in the admission process. So people want affirmative action, people want diversity, but when it comes to the specifics, they are very skeptic. They are not very sure whether they can use affirmative race as a factor among many other factors in admission process. So the 8 states that have banned following California, there are Washington, Florida, Michigan, Nebraska, Arizona, New Hampshire, Oklahoma. So then Texas also it was banned, but it was reversed by Guter versus Bollinger decision. So now 8 states are the 8 states have banned currently. So what we can conclude is the challenge what we faced in the Proposition 16 was people say it is a wording until the polling. The summary on the ballot read, the measure permits government decision-making policies to consider race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in order to address diversity by repealing constitutional provision prohibiting such policies. So that's the wording. So leading up to and following election day, numerous media outlets have pointed to this description as one of the biggest obstacles that the Yes on Proposition 16 campaign faced. The first challenge was that affirmative action was not directly referenced. So voters may not have understood that yes to Proposition 16 was a yes to affirmative action. So that's what happened. I read some article about this, how it failed, and they talk about that when even Black and Hispanic voters, when they were approached, when they were told that, okay, this is the affirmative action, would you support? So 60% of the people said no. So when they explained about what the Proposition 16 was, then 60 to 75% of Latinos and Black people started saying yes. So it looks like the wording, it was a big obstacle. It happened to be a big obstacle. The wording was not very clear, and the general public could not understand what it was. And the study after study and the whole history of affirmative action show when the programs are shut down, minority representation drops. So that is the history shows, and that is the statistics, and that's the data, kind of data we have. Did these opponents really imagine that some people who opposite that, they really imagine that the passing a law against discrimination would reset relationship, race relationship overnight, but just by enacting the law, maybe they imagine that it will reset, everything is done. So, but in reality, that is not the case. The failure of Proposition 16 is it's a kind of a declaration of entrenched commitment to colorblind ideology and practice, ignoring the social inequality, and it favors of centering most privileged students in university admissions. So it is clear that the proponents of affirmative action will need to garner adequate time and resource to effectively persuade the public. The persuasion won't be easy. While Americans agree with the value of equal opportunity, it gets more complicated when they are given specifics. For this reason, it is even more critical for affirmative action proponents to address messaging complexity. That's very important. And perhaps even move away from the term affirmative action if it carries baggage that prevents voters from recognizing its true value. So lesson learned from this and exit polls on Proposition 16 will be important in the coming months as coming year. Proponents recalibrate the path forward. Until then, and even if the Supreme Court strike down affirmative action, advocates or proponents for the racial equity in higher education should not be dissuaded by the results in California. And again, this is not a bellwether on affirmative action on other state or all over the United States. With this, I will stop this. Thank you.